Hello, I'm Eva Grant. This is EDTE 779. I will give reflections, insight gain, and takeaways from the course. The power of knowing who you are. The self-examination activity is an excellent way for me and my students to introduce themselves to the class. Our identity is largely determined by the people, places, and time in which we live. The activity is a way to examine their social, type, agency, or oppression. It's also an excellent way to begin a new school year. A takeaway from this particular chapter: if you don't wish to be treated the way Blacks are treated, it says that you see what's going on and you're doing nothing about it. Why are you willing to accept it and do nothing about it? White children have to be taught at an early age about racism. What if all kids are white? A strategy from the video. White children need to explore and respect the range of differences and similarities among white people. Differences are not a sign of inferiority. In Irwin's article on multiple pathways to whiteness, white teachers' unsteady racial identities, I was surprised to read, and should not have been, that white students who grew up in lower income neighborhoods, where they were in more frequent contact with people of color, were able to achieve white femininity by disassociating themselves from the people of color and cultures of color that were threatening their progression into white women. White Like Me documentary. How does colorblindness make us worse as a society? A person is choosing not just to see skin color, but also the racial disparities, inequities, history of violence, and current trauma perpetuated within a racist society. You don't see me for who I am, and neither do I matter. A colorblind approach allows you to deny uncomfortable cultural differences. We must be color conscious and not colorblind. Another takeaway: I respected the work of Ruby Payne. However, I'm troubled by the article, A Framework for Understanding Ruby Payne, that states Payne owns her own publishing company, which means that her research does not have to be justified, reproducible, valid, or reliable to be published. What a shame. In the article, it's not their fault. Systemic inequalities in our schools. Gorski challenged the writings of Ruby Payne as he uncovered decades of research on the horrible inequalities in the educational opportunities available to poor students compared to those available to wealthy families. Microaggressions is a new term for me that I will add to my vocabulary. And being mindful that these are verbal, nonverbal, discriminatory expressions that target members of a group based on their race, ethnicity, gender, and sexuality. Out of all of the chapters and videos, Chapter 7 was my most memorable. Liberate languages and talking Black in America. I applaud you for your expertise and acknowledge the fact that you've spoken about the culture of AAL. So much excellent information I can use for days. Language plays a critical role in the daily life of Native Americans. Indigenous languages are disappearing at an alarming rate. Many are holding on to their language, and it's being revitalized. I had no knowledge of the Stonewall Riot until it was brought to my attention while watching the lecture video. I've read through the GLSEN articles. All students want to belong. All people want to belong, be loved, and feel safe in their environments. There is so much to reflect on from this course and much work to be done. The book, Revolutionary Love, and the videos have truly impacted my life and thinking in a positive yet profound way. This course is unlike any that I've taken. The question now is, where do I go from here? Insights, growth are as follows. I will include images of people that represent different ethnicities, shapes, sizes, abilities, and clothing in my handouts, activities, posters, and games. It's important to include resources that feature a diverse cast of people, regardless of the unit of study. I will also incorporate a variety of posters, photos, books, music, flags, and media that showcase and tell stories of many ethnic, racial, and gender backgrounds, as well as reject rigid gender roles. Students must feel safe. This means believing that they can ask questions, explore ideas, and make mistakes without being humiliated. I will also have consistent, clear rules and guidelines. I will celebrate students' successes alongside praising students for their efforts. Culturally responsive teaching is an approach that I want to take in my classes in hopes of empowering my students intellectually to impart knowledge, skills, and character. It's my duty to learn the behaviors, backgrounds, and challenges my students face so I am better equipped to address them. An effective way to learn about my students is to break the ice with them in the new school year, the very first meetings that we have as a class. Our beliefs are biased and also shape our education, family, friends, and peers, and may take many forms such as religious, gender, cultural, academic, or something else. Unconscious biases, implicit, may lead to lower expectations based on the student's culture and or race. Some instructional strategies that I will use are the use of materials and reading in the classroom will reflect the diversity of the students and the diversity of the contributors in the field of study or discipline. I will ensure that varied and frequent activities, learning techniques are being used. This will include discussions, group work, experimental learning, debates, presentations, team projects, to name a few. Activities and lessons will be presented in multiple ways to address the varied learning styles of students. By valuing each student's culture, we contribute to their self-concept, which in turn influences their academic success. I need to know that I have people on board who express an interest in our plan of being a culturally inclusive school and educating our students. Collaboration is essential to success. I must get a feel of the community's preferences, which is invaluable. The understanding that needs to be clarified is the objective or objectives, so we will be on the same page with high expectations for student performance and the ongoing timescales. Readings need to be expanded. All literacy skills and subject knowledge is expanded and broadened. Reading aloud will be apparent in lessons. All students' confidence in reading out loud flourishes. Students will read challenging texts that expand their vocabulary and cultural capital. This information should be shared with all stakeholders. I know that I have achieved my goal when my purpose has been met, when we are all learning, when the students are focused, we are consistent with their work, and they are excited about learning. Students will be invited to share knowledge in multiple ways, which include not only traditional tests, but low-stakes quizzes, quick writes, homework, responses to class questions, and group discussions, as well as authentic assessments such as life history interviews, personal stories, autobiographical journaling, and portfolios to demonstrate personalized learning. These actions will affect culturally and linguistically diverse children, youth, families, and communities, because we will learn about our students' cultural backgrounds and demonstrate an appreciation of these cultures. I will get buy-in by setting priorities, decide on the objective and which goals we want to act on first, and make a list of what steps we need to take. Have a time scale, review our progress, take a look at where we are to see if we're on track to meet my goals, and adjust our plan if we need to. The key players are the stakeholders: administrators, teachers, students, parents, community, etc. Barriers that I foresee may be lack of leadership and/or excessive distractions that prevent effective planning. My allies, my support team, parents, students, faculty with whom I collaborate, and administration. To sustain the effort is the willingness to support the program and resources, physically and emotionally. There is minimal cost. Each department receives some funding for supplies. The internet has great resources that cost nothing. This concludes my PowerPoint presentation.